Hello, my name is Matthew Millings. I'm a professor of criminal justice at Liverpool John Moores University, and for the last 2 decades, I've been conducting research into all aspects of the workings and operation of the criminal justice system, um, but with a real sort of focus on the work of probation services and how probation services work in partnership with organisations to help rehabilitate and support the desistance journeys of some of the most vulnerable and volatile people within our communities. Of particular interest to our discussion today, I've led two research projects, both funded by the ESRC, that have looked at the experiences and consequences for staff of experienced two significant and profound moments of organisational change within the history of probation services. In 2014, as the Transforming Rehabilitation Reform Programme took hold, and then more recently leading a 3.5 year project with a team of 6 researchers that have looked at the experiences and consequences for staff at all levels of the probation services and of those people who work with and who are managed by probation services of the implementation of that reform programme in 2019. And I'll be drawing a lot on those research projects and a whole series of other pieces of research I've done over this last 2 decades to inform the observations that I'll be making today. The first thing I would want to say is the importance of probation professionals keeping sight of those core probation values and of an individual's sense of purpose of working in probation as someone helping others to engage in processes of rehabilitation. And I know that on the face of it sounds like a quite an easy or a flippant and maybe even a patronizing thing to say, but actually, I think through the research projects that I've conducted over this last 2 decades, I think we've now got an evidence base through the research that people like we've conducted and others have conducted about just how important those values are to bolstering the resilience of people's sense of professional identity. A powerful feature of the research that we've done is the sense that people at all levels of the organisation, from frontline probation staff who are delivering services as we're recording this video, right the way through to those people working at the most senior level in shaping and engaging in policy dialogues, I think you can see that there is this sort of sense of duty and responsibility that people have to steward probation through to its next iteration. And as we know, probation has been through a series of profound organisational changes, and that sense of being able to recall, renew, and identify your core probation values, I think, have been really important at those moments. So it's that ability, I think, to focus on those values of providing the opportunities for individuals to engage in non-judgmental, strengths-based supervisory support rooted in the communities that they are drawn from, that provides them with that sort of focus and that durability to keep sight of what's important through all those processes of change and uncertainty that probation has and continues to experience. And I speak as someone who's been able to do pieces of research with people 10, 12, 13 years apart in their probation career, where I've gone back and done research with them again, who've stayed and remained very loyal in the service. And a key part of that is that sense of their identification with those core probation values. And I think it is a measure of the strength of the occupational values of probation staff for me, that even many of those who leave the service continue to advocate and champion the service from afar. I guess a second key insight I would identify from my experiences of research activity, both within and beyond probation, is the importance I've always found of developing and maintaining the development of probation craft, of good probation practice, and of how important that is to the people who work within the probation service. And so as I reflect on my experience of interview-based research, focus group work, maybe some semi-ethnographic research that I've done over the last 20 years, a feature from all those forms of research activity with probation practitioners, again at all levels of the organisation, is that appetite to learn and to keep refining and developing their professional skills. I think yes, there is a clear sense of those core probation competencies in being measured and in being realistic about the work that can be achieved with the individuals who are being managed by the probation service, about the importance of developing respectful dialogues and open channels of communication in nurturing those relationships. Those sort of core competencies, those core skills are there. But I think there's also a recognition, and I've consistently found this amongst practitioners, a recognition of the need to keep learning and to keep understanding the different offence types, models of working that respond to the complexity of the people presenting for supervision in probation. That sense of humility, of needing to keep learning, needing to keep engaging in reflective practice, I think is a really important part of developing what is understood as and what can evolve as good probation craft. And I would say that the vast majority of experienced probation staff that I've encountered can recall the names of people who've mentored them, who've nurtured them on their journey into and through their career in the probation service. And the legacy of that mentorship is really powerful and strong to people's sense of personal and professional identity. And often those people who acted as mentors, those people who gave advice, those people who can be name checked as being a really significant influence on people's careers and the development of their probation craft, they're people who are often outside of formal hierarchical organizational structures. They can, but are not always their line managers, but they're people in the office. They're experienced professionals who were sounding boards, who provided guidance and support, and who, on occasion, provided challenge and sought to correct and address some of an individual's work in practice in ways that ultimately allowed them to be and to develop their practitioner craft. Third and final reflection I would offer from the past 2 decades of research work in and around the delivery and innovation of criminal justice working is around the importance and value of probation and probation staff and probation work to its partners, to its criminal justice stakeholders and partners who work alongside probation services. And I think for practitioners, there is so much that we can learn and there's so much we can take from examining and making sense of their relationships with and experiences of working with probation services. And what we see in our most recent research project, in the Rehabilitating Probation Project, is that a series of partners operating at a strategic and an operational level routinely sort of talked about probation as being, and their staff being, the epitome of public service values in seeking to support some of the most vulnerable, volatile and violent members of our community, who other organisations, other agencies often shy away from taking some responsibility for. And I would say that it is staff at all levels as well of these partner organisations that are recognising what good probation practice is. And the research with partnership organisation just routinely cites the capacity of probation services to present new perspectives, to challenge different organisational approaches to working in partnership working and those that they jointly manage, and to consider the whole person and the context of the offending behaviour and of the need to have patience and thinking about long-term behavioural change that is required to address the reasons and the context behind why people are entering and often staying within the criminal justice system. And so I would say, the research with practitioners from partner organisations shows us that the more these people at all levels of the organisations they're from, the more they work with probation, the deeper their respect for the role of the service, the more that they can identify with the moral legitimacy of probation staff and the work probation are engaged in. And I think the more they understand those measured contribution probation services can play and do play as part of a wider whole systems approach to helping start address the many complex and intersecting factors that contribute to why many people enter and stay within the criminal justice system. I think listening to those external voices, making sense of the strengths and the value of the contribution that probation deliver to their partnership working can be quite reinforcing. And I think in many ways takes us right back to the first observation I made, which is about those core probation values and having a clear sight of what they are in guiding probation policy, practice, and the day-to-day operation of this service.